Okay, so I'm trying to think if I should do the part 2 to the Miss S situation, or if I should do a part 2, or maybe probably more than part 2. Maybe, I don't know, the part 5 of the truth about running away, but I really rather title it or have like a subtitle that's like tips for homelessness more so. Or maybe just tips for just being out in the world, I guess I could say. That's probably even a better title. Especially when it comes to like advice for avoiding Marine Kingdom agents / chomos and R-worders. But I'm thinking about it because like one of the things with me is that I started to notice a couple years ago that things become repressed memories for me really quickly. So the longer I take to make the part 2, or make a part 2 that I actually like how it comes out about the Miss S situation, the more I forget. And then eventually I'll forget so much of it, I may not even be able to make a video about it anymore. Like I remember even during when I was in the Jim Crow self-confined placement, I had to make the videos about the situation or really write up notes right then while it was happening, or else I wouldn't remember jack after. And that's kind of how the Miss S situation is, but I keep getting reminded that I need to make the video because I run into her every now and then and she says stupid stuff to me. Like even, wait a minute, even today I ran into her and it's just really annoying. But I'm still trying to think about it though. I guess this should be the part 2 or whatever in the world, whatever number, for the homeless tips / tips for being out in the real world / tips for when you get kicked out or run away. Or if you were just in foster care and you were already homeless anyways. So, where could I start? I remember seeing once in the support group, one of the few that exists that is very not supportive. And somebody was calling themselves giving people advice for when they're out here. I can't even remember if they were out here already and they had already ran and they were laying low or just still homeless. Or if there was somebody giving advice who had left before. Well, actually, no, they couldn't have been. I don't think. So maybe they had either just got out here or there's somebody that's calling themselves giving advice, but they've never actually even been in the situation before. And they were talking about one important thing is never trust homeless people. And it's like, one of the things that people really have to get into their head is that once you're full-blown homeless, you are now just a homeless man or a homeless woman. Depending on where you may be at, you may fall victim to the whole thing that I like to call the white addict projection. So people may automatically accuse you of being on substances. Or you're just going to get accused of being mentally ill, or just get called a bum at most. The mentally ill thing is like, I don't know, like even like a couple years ago, I had somebody tell me that since I'm younger, sometimes some people may just assume that I'm just automatically going to be like severely messed up because I'm younger. But I kind of already knew about that and like how people could think when it comes to stuff like that even before I ended up out here, because you already know that one of people's first assumptions is that you're a prostitute if you're younger. Even if you're not homeless, some people feel like the only way for younger people to make money is by something detrimental that really is barely even consensual situations, and often it's even human trafficking, but people like to blame the victim because they don't care. They're perpetrators themselves. They have cognitive dissonance or they're just ignorant. Which I could go into that too, but I don't want to go off somewhere else. So, like, people are gonna assume that, like, I've just been getting R-worded and stuff, and that my head's gonna be screwed up due to that, and I'm gonna, like, do something to them. And not everybody, but, like, some people do feel that way. But it depends on where you're at as well. Like, I know, like, in some places, people automatically be scared of you if you're homeless. So, like, if they see you in your sleeping bag or just sitting somewhere, they'll, like, I don't know, run from you. Like, if you get up, they just have this idea that you're gonna, like, do something to somebody. I don't think I've experienced that since I've been where I'm at now, though. I mean, not people being scared and weird to that level, I haven't. But stuff like that would happen a lot in Cali. But I think there's also a racial side to that anyway, so. But anywho, that whole you can't trust homeless people thing, it's really stupid because you can't trust too much of anybody. You should always have discernment, but I feel like, I mean, most people are kind of like, they're pretty half-safe. It's not even about somebody, like, I don't know, wanting to do something to somebody. It's not even about somebody being, like, I don't know, like, wanting to beat you up or something weird. I can't really think of anything, but, like, that example, like, somebody possibly being violent, that's even really irrelevant. It's just like a lot of the mindsets that people have. If you don't have the same mindsets and you're not agreeable and you're not into, like, certain things, which can depend on where you're at, like, different people are different. Wait a minute. It's kind of like the whole one man's trash is another man's treasure. So, like, what's unsafe to me, or a lot of the people that I would consider unsafe, some people would consider safe people if they're desperate enough, I guess I could say. But I'm not gonna lie, though, as I mention all the time, although I know it doesn't sound good, it's just the reality. I started to realize years ago that I really didn't even like most people I meet anyways. And that was once I started to get out of the whole people-pleasing, codependency, lemurs obsessed, buddy-buddy stuff, where I would just try to be friends with any and everybody. Not any and everybody like the stereotypical people wanting to fit in, and like they'll try to fake stuff to fit in. Not like that, but like I was just trying to be friends with people that I never had anything in common with, which I don't really have anything in common with most people. And I've met a few people around my age that, like, we were into similar stuff, but it was never in person. It was like some online stuff, so that was kind of whatever too. But it's like, I mean, I don't know, I'm just not really all that people-y, and it's just a lot of stuff with that. But if you're like a people person, I guess I could say, then, I mean, a lot of things could go. It kind of reminds me of this post I seen back in my Instagram quote reading era a couple years ago. Well, that was more than a couple years ago. But somebody made this post, and they were like, once you let an MFer slide, MFer start ice skating. That really is how it goes, though. But shoot, I didn't even think I let anybody slide. People were already ice skating because I was easy to ice skate on, I guess. I don't know. But anywho, to get back to the point, other homeless people, the safer ones, they're the safe for anybody really, but especially other homeless people, when you want to know where to go to get food and if there's anywhere to go for, like, I don't know, to get a sleeping bag, which depending on where you're at, probably not, definitely not in the South, you're probably not going to find places to, like, get tents or tarps or sleeping bags. But on the West Coast, yeah, when you want to know that stuff, the only people that are really going to have the answers to those questions is going to be other homeless people. In fact, I wouldn't even advise for you to walk up to somebody who isn't homeless and ask them something like that, because one, it sets off their radar that, oh, you're one of those people and you may end up wanting something from me, and it just could cause a lot of issues. It could lead to a lot of not good things happening. And it's like, even if you run into a predatory homeless person that's predatory in whatever way, still, like, I mean, maybe they could do something to you, but I feel like oftentimes the people in quote-unquote functional society that are predatory are worse than the people who are not in functional society, quote-unquote, who are predatory. It's kind of like this joke I made back during my videos from when I was in Slab City and that whole situation, where I was like, I guess like some people who do the whole desperation chomo chasing thing, they feel like, well, I'd rather get with a chomo, or no, I don't even think that's what I said. I think I said maybe some people feel like I'd rather go through domestic violence with a homeless dude than with one that has a house, because if he's beating me up in the house, if somebody did actually care and want to like intervene, they're not going to be there to do it. So I'd rather like get with somebody who's going to have to beat me up outside, because we're always outside. It was something like that I said. I can't even remember. Why did I bring that up? I don't even know why I brought that up. My blood sugar's all over the place as usual. So this is going to be drifty. Maybe not too drifty, hopefully. But you're gonna have to ask other homeless people. I know that was what I was talking about. So like, what was the other thing? Okay, I think I was trying to make an example for something, but I don't really remember much about that. So I'm just gonna keep going to the next thing. So the next thing, always pay attention to your surroundings. I've always been pretty hyper vigilant. I even had like realized something back in my previous situation when it comes to people that say that they have anxiety. Now, one of the things that I realized is that you may not even really have quote unquote anxiety, which comes from trauma anyways, from like being used to having people like being having a lot to say about you and your situation and what you're doing, and like, for example, your abusers making jokes about how you walk and how you talk and stuff like that. But also, you may be living in mold toxicity, which most buildings have some form of mold. Really, what a lot of construction people say, or lumber people say, is that the lumber already has mold on it before it even gets off the lumber yard. And then you may have metabolic issues. So like, for me, I've realized that what I thought was just me getting nervous was actually me having blood sugars that were 50 and lower, which is why it was a miracle. I've never been like, I've never passed out or anything. But that can seem like anxiety, so that's one thing I could say. But also, another thing is that you may be hyper vigilant, you notice a lot of stuff that goes on around you, and you think that other people do too. But to be truthfully honest, if I haven't realized anything else throughout the years, most people, even a lot of people with a lot of trauma themselves, do not pay attention to their surroundings like that. They really don't. I'm always paying attention to my surroundings, who has an erection, who's jerking off, who's looking at what, where, and who looks mad, who looks sad, who looks like they don't really want to be in their relationship, different things like that I pay attention to. And of course, I have the usual, I don't know, I guess maybe trauma symptom where I can always hear yelling, crying, arguing, and things like that from like a mile away. And so, this is actually kind of funny. I guess maybe it is. It depends on the person. There's this one Greyhound station that I go to sometimes. I've been there a few times throughout the years during my travels. And I don't know how many months ago it was. I would definitely say way more than 6 months ago. I met this one dude who's a security guard at this Greyhound station, and he's been in love with me ever since, or quote-unquote in love, because really it's all like perversion, limerence, lust type stuff. I would say he's maybe like, he's 40-something, maybe in his 30s, but I'd say he's like 40-something. And there was this other dude that was working there too, especially this one day I went there when like they were really like trying to get with me. And then, like, he was trying to get with this other lady. And, you know, one of the things about predatory people who have, like, fallen into the heavy demonization is that they know how to play the game. Kind of like I mentioned in that last video, or that video about how, what was the title? Giving up on life isn't a bad thing, something like that. And I mentioned that Chomo guy who was telling me I had the game all the way effed up. I have the game all the way right. That's why I don't play the game. And so anyways, okay, what was I? Oh yeah, so like they know who to approach. They approach people that look younger and alone, or people who just are alone in general. Like I even noticed that like there was this one lady that the security guard and the other security guard didn't approach to try to get with her or to harass her or whatever. And it was because they thought that like her husband or whatever was with her. But actually, I paid attention and I realized they weren't even together. They were just sitting by each other. Because after a while, her bus was called and she got on the bus and left. And then his bus was called and he got on the bus and left. But since it looked like they were together, the security guard dudes never approached this lady. And of course they like dudes too and boys, but that's one of the big parts with this. Because at the end of the day, lust is never satisfied. Like I even remember years ago, and even before I mentioned this to somebody that I had realized this, I would just think about it like to myself, and like I realized that like the level of demonization with like the Marine Kingdom stuff and like the sexual perversion that I was at 8 and 9 and stuff, like I was already, dang, I'm getting bit by mosquitoes. They keep pretending that they're not out anymore, but they are. I guess they don't go away though. Like I haven't been in the South in years, and I thought that like maybe they go away during the winter time, but I guess not. Or maybe it's not cold enough, I don't even know. But anywho, what was I saying? Oh yeah, like it's actually kind of scary, like how a lot of these people, especially 40 plus and sometimes 30 something plus are, because it's like how messed up they are. I was already like that at 8 and 9. It's actually kind of scary what I could have became if I wasn't really adamant about fixing my issues and getting over like the demonization and stuff, which like I always say, being homeless and just leaving my previous situation helped with that a lot. Although one of the bad things about it is that now I'm more out in the open for the millions of Marine Kingdom agents that are all around me to just pop up out the woodworks. And when I say pop up out the woodworks, I mean literally. Like when I give this example, it's actually like 100% true, even if it sounds like exaggerated. Like I could have one dude come down the street and try to get me to get in his car or to get with him or whatever. Then I'll have like that lady I mentioned in Santa Cruz, although they weren't from there, they travel a lot, that was telling me about how they have a good job and they wanted me to get in their car and get naked with them for $20 for a satanic ritual. She'll come down the street after that. And then once I get away from them, I'll just come across some people having sex in their car. And then once I get away from that and I walk away, I'll come across some dude jerking off in his car, and then he'll ask me if I want to give him oral sex. And that's not like an exaggerated example. Like that's really how Marine Kingdom agents are. It's like sometimes it's kind of like, where did this person even come from? Like I was looking back and nobody was there, and then I turn around and then they're there. Or the many priests that have wanted to get with me, or like even just the ones that give off freaky vibes. Catholic priests always do, but that's another video. But more so my example that I mention all the time, from that dude, that priest in Santa Cruz that would come out once in a blue moon, and he would call himself quote unquote helping the homeless, and he would like do that usual manipulative thing where like he would be like, you're a beautiful 13-year-old and I'm not going to let you test and lure me with your prostitution that didn't exist, and I'm not going to let you something. And since I didn't want to move in with him and be his living sex slave, I didn't want help, quote unquote, and I wasn't ready for change. And he was talking about but let me know when you're ready for change, because that's only when your life is going to get better. And that's one of the annoying things. It kind of even reminds me of that toxic lady that I mentioned near the end of Giving Up on Life Isn't a Bad Thing video, because it's like she did something kind of similar where she tried to project her like issues onto me, and she was talking about some like, you're in this predicament because you're like suicidal and some weird stuff, some weird stupid stuff. it's like the idea that being out here necessarily has to mean that like you're doing something bad, and also just like the whole idea that it's a choice, and then also the idea that even if it is a choice and somebody'd rather be like out here and they'd rather work seasonal jobs and then travel and stuff like that, then like they're doing something they shouldn't be. But that also goes into the whole thing that I mentioned pretty often, where people are like, they're brainwashed their whole life into believing they have to be a part of the matrix and that there's no way to survive without being a part of it. And so then when they realize that there's people that work seasonal jobs and travel, there's people that are out here that have been to India, there's people that are out here that are from the UK that come here and they travel and they go to different states and they go back to Europe and stuff like that. When people see that, they're like, you're a bum and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you need to work and struggle and fight to survive like everybody else does. Which is really interesting because the stereotypical homeless person isn't really the nomadic traveler. So like they're struggling to survive just like, or even maybe more than other people are. But anyways, people like to blur the lines between quote unquote homelessness and what they want to consider being a bum and who they want to lump in when they feel like it as an insult. Like, I would honestly say that the homeless term is just like the different terms like sped, retarded, the different mental labels. It's used like an insult, just like those are. But anywho, they're like, I'm fighting to take care of a family I don't want, and to hold up a marriage I don't want, and a house I don't want, and to take care of kids that I never wanted. And you're living free while I'm struggling, and you should be struggling like how I'm struggling. That's one of the things with a lot of people. That's why they really feel mad at you, and what was I gonna say? I don't know, but there's that too. But anywho, to get back to the point, I don't even remember where I was going with that or why I got there, but this dude who's in love with me at the Greyhound station, because I'm pretty sure that's what I was last talking about, he would play those usual games, and I was at the Greyhound station again the other day behind that whole casting call situation that's kind of embarrassing that I mentioned in the last video, because I went to this other city. And so he was sitting in the back. He has the usual predatory red eyes. Like there's this joke that I've been making in my head about like certain people, like the stereotypical like bug-eyed Chelma or sexual predator. Not this. Well, I mean, this dude does kind of have that too, but I'm thinking about somebody else more so. And it's like totally a bug-eyed Chelma. But anyways. So this dude, he's sitting in the back at the security desk, and he's like, no headphones, nothing, just watching corn with the volume like halfway to the top, and it's like, but why? He's just like sitting back there watching, and then he's looking around and looking paranoid too. And it's like, I don't know how people don't notice that stuff. It's like, people do not really pay attention to their surroundings. And I was looking back, and I was looking at him, and he was looking around looking paranoid, but he didn't turn the volume down or anything. And it's like, I don't know why he didn't turn the volume down, but he was just sitting back there watching it. And then like, this elderly dude had got up and walked over there to stand by the window to wait to see when his ride came. And then the security dude got nervous because the elderly dude was standing right by the security desk, and the elderly dude was even kind of looking at him. And so then he got up and he stretched, and he had like a huge erection. And then like he had went to go do his rounds where like he walks around the Greyhound station a little bit, kind of really quickly, to check to see what all is going on. And one of the funny things about it though is that if I haven't seen anything else, which everybody should already know this, police are only there to harass people, which I'm sure everyone already knows this. Like, and it's like when you realize these things, especially if you're like a melanated person, people are always going to be there to make it into a racial thing. But realistically, I mean, police officers and all law enforcement, they are just like martial law Freemason people under MK Ultra and stuff like that. Like, I don't even believe a lot of them are human. Like, I believe the game Saints Row 3, but like the hybrid cops that can like jump really high in the air and do all that stuff, kind of like in the opening, not the opening, the beginning of the game, kind of, with like the president scene, and I think maybe Saints Row 4, where like the cop is like doing all those crazy air jump fly moves. That's how I see a lot of these cops. I don't believe a lot of these people are even human. But overall, they're there to watch people get R-worded and essayed and molested. Which I guess I can't say this. So they're there to watch people get essayed and R-worded. Like, even the security companies, like, I remember back when that whole thing happened in Santa Cruz, and that dude was talking about he got on the cameras, he was talking to somebody, and I could hear it because it echoed to like my tent camping spot in the woods, because it was like a driveway type thing that's hard to explain, but it like echoed up that and bounced off the walls into the trees. And so he got on the intercom camera thing, and he was talking about I see your every move, you can't go anywhere in this town without me seeing you, I see everything you do, and I'm always watching you, and I'm going to tell the police about you, and there's going to be a warrant out for your arrest. And he was talking to this dude, because I had ended up looking down there, because the guy was trying to get out the rain, if I'm remembering right, and he sat down for 1 second. And that's how these people are. Like, the power really goes to these people's heads, but overall, if you really see all the stuff that you claim you see, I know for a fact 100% that all these cameras everywhere see people get in traffic, which of course the police, they play a role in that, they're a part of it. But I know for a fact you've not only seen people get trafficked and kidnapped, I know you've seen plenty of people get assaulted in all types of forms. And that's something that I've always realized. It's like the police are always there to arrest me for existing, but it's like, shoot, where are you guys when anything is happening? Like, where are you guys when somebody's getting beat up and jumped by, I don't know, some random dude walking down the street? But yeah. Anywho, point is, these are the security people in the law enforcement. People already know how ICE is. Well, people are pretending that they don't, but that's gonna continue to get worse with the martial law. But overall, these people are the ones doing the security. And another thing, too, that I could go ahead and throw in, like I mentioned back in the whole situation with me being in NY, and the police and making up excuses for why they help traffic people, and they were talking about those people just have victim complexes, and you can be anything you want to be. How can you be anything you want to be with that fake American dream bullcrap when you have police helping to press false charges on you and send you back to traffickers and random strangers who aren't even your relatives? Like, that's something else that people don't talk about, that I mention pretty often. When people see that, like, people are running away or getting, escaping, whatever, people always talk about how they're so glad the cops scraped them back up to send them back where they came from. But the thing is, it's like, it's not even always just people's family that's trafficking them. Cops are scraping people up and getting paid to send people back to random people who took them that aren't even their families. They're sending people back to not only the usual prisons and institutions, but other random kidnappers as well. Not that people being sent back to abusive and trafficking families is good either, but I'm just saying, like, a lot of these people aren't even being sent back to family. And that's why I made that video like a year plus ago with that audio. The video came out really drifty, but with the audio of Allie Carter talking about something similar. And I was like, that's exactly what I've always been saying. And she was like, they found hundreds of missing kids and sent them where? Because somebody already took them from their family. And that's exactly the thing. It's just refunneling and re-trafficking, really. But anywho, just the mindsets like that quote about the whole they can be anything they want to be from the police. Just stuff like that. These people aren't safe people. And another thing as well, never walk up to law enforcement and ask them about rides anywhere. They're supposed to give you rides, but they're often going to tell you, especially if you're not white and if you're not a woman, they're often going to tell you that they don't give people rides anywhere, and they're only going to give you a ride to the police department if they're sending you to jail. That's what they're going to tell you. They told me that before, but that's not really that true. Like, I've even heard stories of people being able to get across the country by getting rides from cops because, like, in certain places, they don't want homeless people there so bad, they'll, like, put you on a bus, a boat, and send you wherever in the world, which also can, like, lead to some really bad trafficking situations, like that situation from, like, what was it, 2020 or whatever, when California had put all those homeless people on a bus and sent them to Hawaii. But anywho, or even the thing that people talk about a lot with, like, how Texas and other places kept putting homeless people on buses and sending them to California. But anyhow, what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, but you can't approach them to ask them for anything or about anything that revolves around rides or homelessness. I wouldn't approach them at all because, one, they may want to ID you, and that could lead to a lot of issues depending on your situation with laying low, age, escaping a conservatorship, different things like that, escaping a rich trafficking family, whatever in the world. They're going to want to ID you. And also, if you ask them about homeless services, they're going to know, oh, so you're a homeless person. That could cause some issues right then and there. And also, if they can tell by what you're asking them that you're not from there, they're going to be like, yeah, we got to figure something out to get this person out of our town or state now because they're about to be a new homeless person, especially if you're at a bus station. If you're at, like, a Greyhound station or something, definitely don't ask stuff like that. Don't approach police at all or law enforcement at all for anything, but definitely don't ask stuff like that because that just shows that you're a new person in town that they're going to want to get rid of. And then once law enforcement in a town or county know that, like, you're there and you're homeless or whatever, or you're in whatever situation, they're never going to stop harassing you after that, especially if you're not white and if you're not a woman. Or, well, if you're not white and if you're not a white woman, really, I meant to say that. They're never going to stop harassing you after that, which will actually cause issues. It can even lead to false charges and all types of stuff happening. Like, even that whole situation I mentioned a while back with the whole Shane / Elvis dude, as I call him, and how he, like, started the whole situation of, like, getting cops to help him harass me or sexually harass me because he wanted to get with me. And he was running around bragging about essaying his kids and all the stuff that he wanted to do to me and other people and all of that stuff. And then, like, the cops had approached me talking about we have videos of you naked. That's another example. Law enforcement are not safe. Law enforcement are not your friends. They're definitely not your friends when you're in this type of situation. Please do not let anybody get it twisted in your head that these R-words are your friends or they're going to help you with something. And also, never let anybody get it in your head, the whole prideful American bullcrap where they're like, we don't have homeless children or homeless youth in America, and anybody that's saying that they were homeless at 13 or whatever, they're a Looney Tune and they're just insane. One is overall pride. One of the reasons that people push narratives like this is because they feel like, oh, that's just a third world country thing and not in my America, and that stuff is for poor countries, which is really interesting. It's like, you would think that a country that would claim to be the best country would have the same laws that these poor countries have, quote unquote, where they don't throw people in jail for being homeless or for being a homeless youth. That's the reason why the kids are out there, because they don't have to worry about being charged and thrown into prison because they don't have a safe place to go and they're underage, or even if they're 18 plus, they don't have to worry about that. I'm not saying that, like, being outside is good, but you would rather just be able to be left alone outside than have to worry about running from cops for the rest of your life and laying low and what else? Just, like, having to wait till a certain age to be able to go to soup kitchens without having to worry about being sent back, which, depending on your situation, is something you're always going to have to worry about. And also, depending on where you are especially, people are never going to stop telling you, especially if you're under 30, that you just need to, like, find your family or find your parents and go home. And I'm in one of those southern places where, like, people are really into that, like, blood is thicker than water stuff, and the whole you're a child, I'm grown stuff. So like, I'm in one of those places where I especially have to deal with a lot of people's feelings and side comments about how I just need to like find my mom and go home and all that stuff that people say. But anywho, what was the other thing? In fact, I even remember when I was in Portland, I met this dude who I'm pretty sure he said he was from Louisiana. He approached me trying to get with me, of course. And he was like, if you were in like Louisiana or something, people there would at least like try to help you out by helping you find your family. And that's so annoying that like people with these types of mindsets and cognitive dissonance about their own family systems, it's annoying that they really think like that. Like the idea that helping somebody is getting them locked up and finding their family, like it's just like, it's really weird. And it's like, where is all this quote-unquote help when you're actually in the abuse situation and really need help? Why does all the help, or the quote-unquote help, come after you help and save yourself? Or you're in the process of it? Because, like, one of the first parts of helping yourself is actually getting out the situation. And then you have to continue to figure things out and help yourself after that. But, like, the biggest part of helping and saving yourself is escaping. And it's like, it's so interesting, though, because it's like when you're in the situation, nobody wants to get involved. People even throw up the whole, well, you know, when people are under 18, people can often, like, get accused of, like, different things for helping them, and, you know, nobody wants to be involved in that. All that stuff is excuses. Trust me. The people that say stuff like that, and people that say that they don't want to help you because you're under 18 and they don't want to get accused of something, which is bullcrap, they'll disappear before you even get into your mid-teens. They'll even disappear before you even get into your teen years. But, anywho, that's kind of a side thing, but point is, well, I have something else I could say about that, actually, because it's like, it's kind of funny, though. People play that whole 18 game, but the reality is that people always have an excuse to not do something, or they always have an excuse people always have an excuse to do or not do something. They always have an excuse to treat you like crap. They always have an excuse to not intervene in certain situations. It's always going to be like that, really. Because, like, for example, people may say that, like, well, I don't want to help you because I don't want to get accused of something because you're 14, for example. But then when you're 18, or maybe even when you're like 20 something, they'll be like, well, now you're grown, so it's whatever. But realistically, there is no such thing as a child, and there is no such thing as an adult either. Neither one of those things are real. People are just different ages at different points in their life, and everybody's figuring things out. And people eventually try to become a part of the matrix and try to survive and do the stereotypical adult or grown-up stuff, which the I'm grown complex revolves around feeling like once you're a certain age, you no longer have to be abused. And then also the whole I pay my bills are paid thing, like in, what was that, My 600-Pound Life? Like, that line is a perfect example of how people with the I'm grown complex are. People think that, like, a house and a car is, like, the epitome of everything, and, like, that's what life is, a house and a car. But it's so funny, though, and I could even go back to the whole thing about how street kids aren't seen as kids. It's really interesting that, like, street kids are expected to, like, have all these things that, like, a lot of, like, fully grown people, even people in their 40s and 50s, don't even have. Like, especially when I was in certain environments more than others, like, most of the grown people I was around, they didn't have a car. A lot of the guys especially are always doing the whole boyfriend, girlfriend, shack up stuff for a place to stay. And it's like, it's really interesting that, like, street kids are expected to, like, have all these things together that most people honestly never end up getting together. But anywho, another thing, which I mention this all the time, and I'm going to keep mentioning it, tents are not waterproof. your condensation and respiration is going to build up on the walls as well, which is going to add to the amount of water that's inside the tent, and it's like dripping and stuff. You're not supposed to sleep with your face inside your sleeping bag because it can like cause a lot of respiration to build up, and that can get water all over you and get your tent wet, and that can make you freeze to death and get hypothermia and all those different things. Some people will say sleep inside your sleeping bag inside of a trash bag. I wouldn't advise doing that. That is very not safe, especially if it's freezing cold. That's going to have you completely soaking wet, and it's going to have your sleeping bag soaking wet, and it's going to be worse if you're inside a tent. And another thing is that I wouldn't advise the tent thing anyways. That's like, you really have to have a spot to actually put a tent, somewhere where nobody's at in the woods. And in a lot of places, finding good wooded spots is not easy. And also, if you're like trying to go to school or go to work, like being out in the middle of the woods somewhere and then trying to do that probably isn't going to work out because you may end up having to go like too far away. But if you can find a wooded area near like where you go to school or work, then like that could be different. But I kind of feel like it's not even really that worth it, to be truthfully honest. Because like a tent is hard to carry around, and you really have to have a good spot. And like, I would say that like where I'm at now, if I found a spot, it could probably work out. But I'd have to like hope it's not like somewhere where people could see me, because the last thing I want is for somebody to like, I don't know, call the cops and say something about, I don't know, like what do people always accuse me of being, a homeless black boy, or just some black boy because they think I'm a boy. But people like be like, yeah, a homeless black boy was going into the woods. Like, in fact, I mentioned before that like some predatory dude had told some people, or they claim anyways, they told me that some dude told them that he saw me going into the woods. And it's like, what woods? There are no woods around here. That's how I know that that's some bullcrap. And it's like, I don't even know if somebody really told them that, but it's like people are always ready to make up weird rumors when they want to get with you. And one of the reasons that people would do this, you really have to understand manipulation. A lot of people will probably never get it, but like, I really learned to master people's mind games in my previous situation. One of the reasons that people will make up stuff and then come to you and say, yeah, somebody said this, is this true? Is because they want to see if you're really in a situation or not. Because of course I'm going to always tell people that I'm not like homeless or anything. I'm going to tell them that I'm not homeless and I live with family. And also, you want to have an actual relative and an actual like name. You want to say like I live with like my uncle or something like that. Or maybe even I live with my mom and dad. That could honestly be better. Because even saying you live with an uncle could like mean, that could even lead to questions of like, well, what happened to your parents? And then they're going to be like, well, something happened if you're living with your uncle. So that means that I probably still could sneak my way in there because your parents left, and that means you're going to have issues from that. So anyhow, you don't want to just say something I've made mistakes and did in the past that shows that you're not family oriented and that you don't have a family, which is say, I live with my relatives. People that use the word relatives, just don't do that. You really got to be specific. But anywho, of course I'm going to say I live with family or whatever in the world, but people will like try to make up stuff to really try to get you to like admit to something, even to admit to things that aren't even true. So like they'll be like, yeah, somebody told me, or even they'll be like, I seen you here and then I seen you there. And people have done to me recently, and of course law enforcement does this, but other predatory people do this as well. They'll be like, I see you everywhere. Which, just like this dude told me a little while ago, when it comes to the thing with the police, anytime people tell you or somebody tells you, I see everything, they're trying to put you on edge. They're trying to install fear into you. This is one of the many reasons why a lot of people in different abuse situations, including like who are homeless, different situations where they're constantly being like, tortured, I guess I could say, will become full-blown paranoid schizo because they constantly have people doing and saying bullcrap like this. But anywho, wait a minute, what was I saying? Oh yeah, hold up. I think I was saying or getting to the point that like they'll try to like come to you with some bull crap to try to get you to say, well, yeah, I was here because I have this, and that going on. Never tell anybody anything. I never tell people anything about my life. I don't know why I would, to be honest. And to be truthfully honest, if you really do run around telling people about your life, especially if you're like in an abuse situation and you're like, people are going to be like, oh, well, you just want to be bad and you don't want to listen to your parents, and that's just what parents do. And of course your mom's going to try to hang you from a tree. That's what moms do. But like, also, if you're homeless and you're running around telling people your life story, people are going to feel like, well, why are you telling me all this? Are you trying to like manipulate something out of me? Or are you trying to like make me feel bad and feel sorry for you? People are going to feel like you're trying to like, run game on them or something. And really there is no reason to tell people that. It's just going to be used against you and thrown up in your face to be like, well, that's why your mother doesn't love you. Because, or like in my situation, people may be like, well, if your parents say you're retarded, then I guess it makes sense that you're out here. And no, not even that. What's the example I usually use? Oh yeah, a predatory person would be like, well, I mean, you say that your parents said you're retarded and all that stuff, and like, I would say you are retarded because, you know, if you really weren't retarded, you would come live in my house and sleep in my bed, and I have a king size bed, and my air conditioning is good. Stuff like that. It's just going to be used against you. You're probably going to get accused of lying. Kind of like those people that say stuff like something that people don't understand, which this is like a quote unquote pretty much. I've seen this be said by a lot of people before. Something that people don't understand about homeless people is that they all have these crazy, stupid abuse stories that they pull out their a-holes about being abused their whole life and being in foster care. And so, like, that's one quote unquote, or like a summary of it at least. A summary that sounds nicer than a lot of the originals. Which even goes back to what I always say. People have a different excuse to treat people bad in every situation. So, like, for example, you're on the molested kid. People will be like, well, you know, if you weren't being seductive at 5. People say stuff like that. And so, it's like, it's always a new excuse. It's all the same, which I'm always going to say it's all the same, really. But, anywho, what point was I getting at? Oh, yeah, so, like, you shouldn't even tell people anything. If somebody's asking, they're predatory, they're trying to get something out of you to use against you, they're a monitoring spirit, something like that. And depending on how bad your, like, abuse was, or even if it wasn't bad, really, people are so cognitive dissonance or predatory themselves, they'll probably just accuse you of lying anyways. Like, something I noticed with, like, especially guys who are, like, in the down low feminine thug persona, or even ones that aren't in the thug persona, just the down low chomo stuff. Like, a lot of them have a lot of really weird mindsets around SA. Kind of like, for example, with the whole, can I even say the word, the diddler situation, which is very old news. It's just people pretending to care about stuff and pretending to just find out stuff that, like, everybody always knew. But for that situation, for example, people focusing more on the whole GAY, if I can even say that thing, or the turned out thing, than even, like, the bigger issue. And I mean, sure, all of it is a part of perversion, but, like, the people that typically focus on that side more than the fact that people are being full-blown assaulted in SA, including, like, babies and stuff, people that focus more on that, they have those same issues, but also they have a complex. Like, something that you may notice about dudes like that is that the ones that have been in prison will be like, they'll be like, I was in prison, I never got SA'd, and I feel like if you get SA'd, then that means you already have the FAGG maybe? I don't know, FAG in you, and I don't have the FAG in me, so I didn't get SA'd, and I would never let somebody do something like that to me. Those types of dudes, they have these complexes around getting assaulted. And I understand why, because when people get assaulted, people are typically blamed for their own abuse anyway, so I understand why they would have these complexes. because a lot of people just tell them, oh, well, you wanted it, and it happened because it happened to you because you're FAGY or whatever in the world. So they have like these different weird complexes. Like, I even noticed that they even have complexes around people who say that they've been assaulted. Though, like, if a woman says that, like, she's been assaulted, they'll be like, well, I don't believe that because she's really not that pretty. And I feel like she's just always trying to make it seem like people want her because she wants somebody to want her. Which people can end up, like, with these different issues from, like, Marine Kingdom spirits where, like, after getting assaulted, they had this, like, complex and they feel like it's because I'm pretty and stuff like that, and they feel like everybody wants them. But realistically, like, perversion spirits are everywhere. Like, most people, I mean, we're all screwed up. Everybody's raised in corn and stuff like that, and the family systems aren't hidden on jack and really never were. So, I mean, everybody is pretty screwed up, but some people are definitely more, like, messed up and far gone than others. But, like, these issues start in childhood anyways. But what point was I getting at? Oh, yeah, the point I was getting at is that, I mean, you really can't, like, go anywhere without, like, risks like that. Like, you can barely even get a job without having to worry about, is the boss going to be a chomo, is the boss going to be R-word, or stuff like that. In fact, one of the dudes that comes to mind who had this view because of this one lady that he feels is just like a prostitute, because for whatever reason she told him something about something that somebody tried to do to her. But anyways, he had even told me about how, like, he wanted to help me get on his job, which evidently he really didn't because he never did. But he was saying that, but then he was like, but yeah, the bosses and the other co-workers are definitely going to try to assault you though. And some other young girls have had to quit because the boss assaulted them or was sexually harassing them. Was sexually harassing them. And I was like, yeah, But anyhow, like, some places definitely have, like, worse principalities of perversion than others. Like, India is also known for, like, SA as well. And I've mentioned this before in, like, one of my first videos about paraphilia, is how, like, a lot of people know the stereotype of how, like, you start an Instagram at 10, even if you don't post pictures of yourself, like, the Indian or the Arabic dude can just automatically tell that you're a 10-year-old, and so, like, they inbox you asking to go out with you, even though they've never seen you before. And, like, there's a possibility you could be, like, a 50-year-old man, but it's like they can just sense that, like, you're too young for them. And so just that makes them want to get with you. So, like, yeah, and that's a part of the whole Marine Kingdom worship thing. Because, like, they have that everywhere, but they have that a lot there as well. And these different religions, they give people perversion spirits. Like, people get turned out in the church. Like, even Pastor Stephen Darby would talk about how really being GAY is a church sin. People get turned out in the church. It's worship of certain deities. But anywho, I guess maybe a good summary for this, which I'm kind of eating something right now, so I'm probably going to be chewing. But a good summary for this is that you should always stay away from people that act really nosy. Nosy people are never safe people. And you'll always notice that whenever you're in a situation where you actually need help, everybody's minding their business. It's not their place to say anything. What are some other quotes? You're beautiful, keep smiling, which can also give somebody a complex. Different things like that people say. Or they'll be like, well, that's just what happens. And if all your parents did whatever thing too, they'll be like, that's just what's supposed to happen, and stuff like that. And, you know, well, let me not go into that because then I'll be somewhere else. And as I've mentioned before, going back to the whole saying that people used to have, and maybe some people still do say, that if a boy is mean to you, it's because he likes you. This really does also lead to, like, predatory, normalization of predatory behavior. And it makes me think about the usual experiences with Marine Kingdom agents. And as I've mentioned before, something that I've realized is that these 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old dudes that are mean to me and talk junk to me, they're being mean to me because they want to get with me. And also another thing is that they see that like I'm not the easy person that they assume I'm going to be, because people assume that like if you're younger and if you seem to be in like a not ideal situation, that you're going to be like easy to like talk into whatever in the world. Wait a minute. Also the fact that with sexual issues and sexual deviancy and the demons that go along with it also comes anger issues and limerence, and like when people feel like they own you and that you are for them and you belong to them, they'll also treat you bad because of that. And as I always mentioned, and have mentioned since even before the evidence challenge, I used to talk about this, I'm pretty sure. Like I already said that. I've had these types of issues before throughout my life, so of course, like I would know like how limerence and stuff works. So like, if that makes anybody want to actually listen to like the things I'm warning people about more, which I don't know if it really will. Like hopefully it will though, because like I mean I definitely know what I'm talking about when it comes to this stuff. In limerence, it goes hand in hand with like sexual perversion, but it doesn't always have to. Like, I remember when I used to have limerence obsessions when I was, what was that, like 6 up, but especially 6 to 10. Yeah, especially 6 to 10. It was only ever with, like, other girls because of, like, the attachment issues and the mommy issue stuff. So the mommy issue side played a part with me. Like, I've never really had a limerence obsession with a dude. And one of the ways to work on that is to not talk to people at all, which I've mentioned that before. That could be its own video, but really though, anywho, to get back to the point, because I just want to let people know that like what I'm warning people about is definitely real. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, like I noticed that like the elderly dudes, they'll like treat me funny, roll their eyes at me, avoid eye contact, tell me not to come around them. But the reason that they're doing it is because they don't want they're scared that I'm going to quote unquote get them in trouble. Which another thing too that I could throw in really quick to hopefully still remember the rest of the sentence is that there are people out there that'll call the cops on you and turn you in when you're trying to lay low, or even if you're just homeless in general, to try to like get you away from them or get you sent back wherever you came from. Maybe like back to your abusive family system or whatever, because they're struggling with like these perversion spirits, and they feel like I gotta get you somewhere so you don't get me in trouble, so I'm gonna call the cops on you because I feel like I'm gonna end up assaulting you one day when I see you walking down the street and I can't handle it anymore, and to avoid me getting in trouble I need to call the cops on you so they can lock you up somewhere, so that way I won't have to worry about R-wording you. There's a lot of people like that, which those are the types of people that are warning you about themselves, just like the Let Me Help You lunatic women I mentioned. When they come up to you, or well, I mean, if anybody else has ever experienced this, but I know I've dealt with having people like approach me telling me that like, oh, this place isn't safe, you're not going to survive here, every time I go anywhere, and then nothing ever happens. Those are the people. But to get back to the point, these older dudes will like ignore me, but whenever they see like some other guy talking to me or say hey to me, some other elderly dude, then they'll approach me after that dude walks away. And then they'll be like, oh, so you're getting yourself caught up, or they'll just be like, hey. And it's like, you've been treating me like crap for months on end, and now you approach me because you see me talking to somebody else, and you feel like you're losing me, and you're losing your chance with me, and you're losing me as your side piece back burner that you think I am, that I never was or never will be. But that's what they think, though. In fact, another recent thing, this is going back to the whole mall situation and me trying to sell books I wrote, embarrassingly. But also, number one thing, if possible, try to be where you know like your targeted audience is at. That can be hard to do, and like there can be a lot of discriminatory stuff that can screw that up. But always make sure that you don't seem like you're in some type of bad situation. which I'm about to go off on a rant a little bit, but like I remember there were some people that like felt like I was doing this for like, I don't know, like some type of project for something. But actually, I wrote the book because I wanted to and because I wanted people to read it. And that's why. Not because like somebody's making me do it, but well, there's also like a lot of problematic and stereotypical stuff with people thinking like that, and even discriminatory sides to that. People feeling like I did it because somebody made me do it. I'd rather for people to think that than for people to think that like I'm in some type of bad situation. Because the thing is, when people feel like you're in a bad situation, or they feel like you're homeless, or you're just like poor or whatever, you're no longer somebody who's selling something. You're now just like the homeless person begging for money in people's eyes. So you always want to make sure that like if possible you stash your stuff somewhere, you don't have anything with you. Like if possible now you don't even have a book bag with you unless you like really need the book bag to carry whatever you're selling. But other than that, always make sure that like you don't look homeless. And like in places like this, a good amount of people are less likely to think that I'm in like some type of situation anyways, because they're not used to like seeing younger people out here anyway. So it kind of makes it a little better. That's that little rant. But to get back to the other thing though, is, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so like the mall owner, even though this is their first time, or even though that was their first time seeing me in like more than 6 months, because I had went out of town. I went back to the West Coast for a while, and then like I didn't have any bus money, so I had only recently started coming back around here, simply because I started storing my stuff near here. Not near the mall though, but like I got another storage unit. Long story a mess, because I was sharing with Jay, and then like we had to move our stuff. The whole thing happened with Miss S, and all that stuff happened. So anyhow, I've been over here sometimes, and I was like, well, I might as well try to like see if I could get anybody to buy some of the books. And like the dude told me that like he didn't want me around here, of course. Him and like it was like I guess maybe he's like the main manager, I don't know, but like mostly 2 staff approach me all the time. Now I already have discernment. I already know that these people have like these usual perversion spirits that most of the guys around here have, and like they like their own kids. So I already knew that, and I already knew that like they were mostly being mean to me because of that, because of like the sexual energies type stuff, not even really because of other stuff. And it's like, okay, so the staff like claim they don't want me around, but then like one of the dudes told me that the next time he sees me, he was gonna, what did he say? Slap that A. I thought that he meant he was gonna beat me up, which is really interesting. But actually he was saying that the next time he sees me, he was gonna have sex with me, because he had to like clarify, which I guess, I don't know. So there was that, and it's like, people don't want you around unless they're getting something out of you, which I made a video about that even at 16, about how like I had really had to accept the realization that people only want me around if they're like getting to take advantage of me in some form or fashion. So there's that. And I would say that like people will say that like I don't know, maybe this sounds scary to them. I don't get scared easily. I just get mad sometimes, but I don't really feel that much emotion. But if anything does, like if I do feel any type of way, it's typically like wanting to beat somebody up. It's very obvious that these people want me in Angola. But I don't get scared, but it's all just annoying. But it's just like, it just shows how like people can be. And like it even makes me think back to something I mentioned before, where people will be like, wait a minute, where somebody who's been like trafficked by their family will talk about how like they were essayed and trafficked by the police, their dad, their mom, their teacher, and people will be like, well, you're lying, because there's no way that everybody around you was a predator. You must have been a prostitute, quote unquote, or you were asking for it and stuff like that, or you're just lying. But the thing about it though is that people who either have these issues themselves, or take up for predators because they're a predator themselves and they have cognitive dissonance as well, or people who want to be able to go to sleep at night, or people who just have never been like vulnerable which I really don't like the term. I feel like that's also kind of like blamey to the person who gets hurt. But people who have people that, like, if something happens, they may actually do something. They don't really get that, like, when people know that you have an abusive family system or that nobody gives a crap about you, to make a long story short, you're up for grabs to whoever wants to do whatever. Now, of course, I'm not about to let anybody do jack, but I will say, though, that, what was I going to say? It kind of all just stacks on top of each other, because it all goes into, like, how people, they just want to, like, it's just a lot of games with people. I don't know what else to say about it, really. But luckily, I learned all this way, way before I ever ended up out here. So I didn't have to learn, like, how to identify manipulation out here. I learned that being around my dad and my quote-unquote dad, my quote-unquote mom, her boyfriend, of course the cash for kids system staff, definitely them. Crap, I feel like sometimes I was around them more than I was even around relatives. So, yeah.